that. So we're on the 3rd week of a 5-week Say Yes series. This week is Say Yes to Understanding. Last week was Joy. The first week was Unlimited Possibility. Next week is Love, and the final week will be Life. Understanding comes in 2 different categories. There's spiritual understanding, and there is physical understanding, material understanding, intellectual understanding, you might say. And really, if we're going to be in this body, we need both. And it is possible to experience both. It is possible to know exactly who and what you are and manifest beautifully on this physical plane. One does not have, we don't have to sacrifice one for the other. For years I did a 12-hour meditation, the one I do at the retreat. I did that at the Unity Church in New York. And I would do it twice a week. And I always gave people a prayer request, what do you want? And mine was always for understanding. I wanted what Solomon prayed for. Solomon, who was a boy, and he suddenly was made king. And the voice within him, the Bible says God, but it's the voice within him, it's the highest voice. Obviously a man named God didn't come to him, but said, what would you have? And Solomon said, I would have understanding, because I'm just a boy. I don't know how to run a kingdom. How am I going to run? I need understanding on how to run my kingdom. And the voice, the Spirit's voice within him said, you didn't ask me to kill your enemies. You didn't ask for great riches. You didn't ask for things of the physical world. You asked for understanding. Well, you get the bonus prize. You get all 3 curtains. That's what it comes down to. With understanding, you can have great riches. With understanding, all of your enemies will be killed. With understanding, you will prosper in ways that you have not yet imagined. With understanding. The Fillmores, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, our co-founders, they sought to develop understanding through their covenant. In their covenant, they said, we surrender our home, our money, our clothing, everything to God. But there was an exchange. There was a caveat there. They said, in exchange, we will dedicate our lives to the running of Silent Unity. It was called Silent Unity back then. To the Society of Silent Unity, I think it was called at that point. In exchange for this, we expect our food, our money, our clothing, our home, without ever making any of these things the object of our existence. Meaning, we're dedicating our life to God. We expect all our needs to be met without ever having to identify ourselves as the very things we need. We don't want to fret anymore that there's an absence of what I need. And they went on to prosper. And we're all sitting up here above the Ford dealership today because these 2 people made a dedication to deepen their spiritual understanding. As I said before, Myrtle Fillmore says in her, it's quoted in several places actually, but it is owing to a lack of understanding of the health laws, neither of us was as healthy as we ought to have been. And they fully believe they ought to have been healthy. With understanding of the health laws, you ought to be healthy. With understanding of the abundance laws, then you ought to be wealthy. Charles Fillmore said it's a sin to be sick. It's a sin to be poor. It's a sin with all that we have. There's no reason for it. Unless, well, actually, you can only be poor in consciousness. You can't actually be physically poor. There's too much wealth around to be physically poor. So it has to be an idea. I am poor. It has to be taking on a false identity. It has to be a lie. So if you want to know that you are rich, you must develop your understanding. Well, how would you do that except by going within? Going within. When I came into unity, they told me God was wisdom itself. And I had what God had. And I thought, you mean to tell me everything I need to know is inside of me? And they said, yes, I need to tell you that. Everything you need to know to be healthy, to live in harmony, to live in pure abundance, to live in peace, to live in joy is inside of you. Every bit of understanding of that is within you. And I thought, wow, what a relief. It doesn't mean anybody's holding out on me. It doesn't even mean I've been stupid not to display it up till now. What it means is I will realize that understanding according to my personal willingness. It will be revealed to me as much as I am willing to see it. So I don't have to worry anymore. I can worry. That's one of my options. But I will worry according to my will, just as much as I can prosper according to my will. No one is holding out on me. You're not holding out on me. God's not holding out on me. They're not holding out on me. It's only me. I might be holding out on me, or I'm just developing my power of understanding. And the best way I know to really see that understanding is to keep saying yes to it. Yes to it. So my prayer always in the 12-hour meditation was, my prayer is for greater understanding. I have the prayer of Solomon because this is my kingdom. My kingdom is my perception of all that I see. And I want to see it clearly. I want to see it for what it is. Particularly when I look in the mirror back there, I want to see this for what it is, because otherwise I'm going to have a lot of judgments about it. Anybody identify?
Yeah.
You look at that physical, that mirror in the wall. Or you look in that mirror and you say, "Hi, God."
Yeah.
And you smile. You cannot not smile when you look in the mirror and say, "Hi, God." You have to smile with that. And so now I want to look in this mirror and say, "Hi, God." No matter what conflicts we're having, I still want to know I'm seeing God before me. No matter what conflicts that I'm having in my mind, I still want to know I'm seeing God before me, and this is how we're living, and this is the choices we're going to make to know God now to a greater degree, because I want understanding. It's not that I don't have it. Charles Fillmore combined, used will with understanding. They're both located behind the eyes. Will's behind the left eye. Understanding is behind the right eye. And so, will is kind of the executive power. The executive knows what he wants. Understanding, the executive assistant, knows how to get it. So, if I want to know God, my power of understanding knows how to do that. If in this book by Charles Roth, he's a Unity writer, one of the things he says, I have to laugh and I want to get it right. He says, to put it in an exaggerated form, someone who thinks about golf all the time doesn't will to spend his leisure time playing tennis. So here's the deal. Someone who thinks about misery all the time does not will to live abundantly. Someone who thinks about what's wrong with the world does not will to live in health. And that's where you and I are accountable for our experiences. We're responsible. Someone who, and often we're thinking about wealth, and we're thinking about that, and we're still living in poverty. And it's like, you're thinking about poverty. I guarantee you. If you're living in poverty, you're somehow thinking poverty thoughts. If you're living healthy, you're thinking healthy thoughts. And there's no good or bad in any of it. God doesn't care either way. God is just love. So God's not holding out. But you're holding out on yourself if you're not happy, if you're not setting yourself free. Are you willing? Don't answer this because, some of you do, some of you don't. But think about it. Are you willing to live in the freedom of love? in the freedom of peace, in the freedom of joy? Are you willing to take whatever you see in front of you and not just turn it into lemonade, but turn it into streets of gold? Take whatever it seems to be in front of you, and instead of calling it bad, you say, there's a way to prosper through this. So we know the story. Some of you know the story, some of you don't. About the two little boys. They're doing a scientific test on two little boys. And they want to see the reaction. And one boy is put into a room with all of the best toys. The best toy, I mean, every brand new computer game, it's just fantastic. And the other boy is put in a room with horse manure up to his chest. They want to see what happens. Well, the one little boy in the room full of the best toys, the most expensive stuff, after 2 hours, he's in there. And he's crying. He's sitting in front of the toys are broken. He's just crying. It's like, he's had everything, and he doesn't know what to do with it. They go down the hall to the other one. The little boy is jumping and laughing and running around in that horse manure. And he's just, and they go in and say, what's going on? He said, with all this horse manure, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. What are you thinking? Are you gonna find your pony? What do you will? I had to examine that in my life. When I'm miserable, I've got to, and I don't beat myself up with it anymore. It's just like, Shawn, what do you really want? When I'm having that argument in the car with somebody who's not there. And I said, Shawn, do you want to be right about this? Do you really want to be right about this? No, I don't want to be right about this. I don't want to be right about how I'm being wronged. I want to clear it up. And I want to take the actions that are correct according to the thoughts that are correct. And sometimes those choices are hard. Those thoughts are hard. You know, I'll tell them I'm not here. You know, it's to be the bigness that you are. To be willing to know that God is at work in ways that I had not thought of before. That's how I've gotten this far. Because it's a real goof that I'm where I am. That I actually, you know, on this physical level, that I'm in a relationship that I'm really pleased about. That I have a job that I love. That I make a decent living. I mean, because my history would tell you, no, that ain't going to happen, Shawn. That will not happen. You quit high school in 10th grade twice. Not once, twice. 2 years in a row, I thought, I can't handle this. And I was right. I needed to go to the bars. That's what I needed. You know, my education came in an odd way. My Bible at 12 was the Valley of the Dolls, which told me, let me know, I want to live in New York one day. I want to live in New York one day. Now, do not try this at home. Yeah. This is my personal journey. I don't recommend this to anyone. And I'm not trying to give the three youths here ideas. You must pray and do what you are guided to do inside. But I suggest you consult your parents along with it. See, my parents weren't very available to me, so I had to make a lot of decisions on my own for survival and what have you. And according to misperceptions, because you see, I agreed with a lot of people's belief in lack. But not enough so that I couldn't be big. I really wanted to be big. So through this journey of, you know, that all this doesn't make sense on paper. My success in life does not make sense on paper. I had to say, well, the paper's wrong. The paper's not it's not the boss. My best friend I grew up with quit school in 9th grade. She is now an attorney and a romance novelist. She graduated college with a 4.0 in some language and history. I mean, the paper doesn't make the rules. Society doesn't make the rules. What do you want? How do you want to know yourself as God? How do you want to know what God is? How do you want to know that love and that peace and that joy within you? Now, I'm gonna tell you, I don't lie to people, I'm gonna tell you what happened here this week. Not in great detail because it's not appropriate to give all the details. Joan and I parted company this week. We no longer agreed on how Unity Center should function. And there's nobody bad here, but it has to be done this way as opposed to this way. And so we talked about it the other day, and we agreed, and we came to an agreement that we can't work together anymore. I mean she has no more function at Unity Center? We haven't discussed that yet. I'm hoping she will, because I adore this woman. I think this woman is bright, I think she is spiritual, and I think she has a lot to offer. But as far as working beside me in the office, we didn't agree anymore. And so I had to go within and ask, and I went to my mentors, and I said, what do you think here? And I talked about it with some of the board members, and it's like, okay, this is the decision we have to come to. And it's not comfortable, and it's not happy, and it's not, but God is always revealing itself. And I feel as if we set each other free to be our bigness. So because I am not against Joan, and in case anyone was wondering, I'm not against Course in Miracles either. I am not anti-Course in Miracles. I don't mind having Course in Miracles at Unity Center. What I've always said from the beginning, though, this will not be a Course in Miracles center. This is a Unity Center. We voted on that a long time ago, and we are, we are supported by Unity Association and what have you. I'm happy to have a wide variety of classes here, none of which will become a religion here. And so I always want to be clear with that. I want to teach truth here. 5 years ago, or it's been almost 5 years, I was at a conference, a Eastern Region Unity Conference. And they would put us in groups. And I was by myself, I didn't have anybody else from this church with me. And so I went with the Unity New York group. And how do you see your church in 5 years? And I've always felt those 5-year plans are difficult for me, for my thing. And they were talking about, my group was talking about, well, I see us in our own building in 5 years. And the only thing I could think of for us for a 5-year plan was, I want a center that tells the truth. That's what I wanted. I thought I could have a very small center. But it's what I want. And the truth is not my opinion. The truth is the truth. Now, really, I can only talk about the truth, because the truth has no words. But to at least guide, go within, go within, go within. If we're not the victim of the world we see, then we're not the victim of the world we see. So what am I? I'm a product of love. I'm a product of wisdom. I'm a product of truth. I'm a product of peace and joy and love. And sometimes when claiming that for yourself, you have to shift things and change things. And it's not an attack on anybody. And so I want to be very clear that I want understanding. I want spiritual understanding, and I want understanding of the physical world. I want both. I want understanding of the health laws, because I want to live healthy. I want understanding of the wealth laws, because I want to live wealthy. I want understanding of the peace laws, because I want to live in harmony. I've said here, a lot of times peacemakers, I wonder if they really want peace, because it seems to me they'd be out of a job. And then who are they? If your identity is based in what you do rather than what you are, then you're always going to be looking to create more for what you do. My job really as a minister is to not have a job anymore. The job of a doctor, it seems to me, to not have a job anymore. It's to heal. So I guess as a minister, I can still always be available to discuss spiritual principles, but not how they are lacking, but how they are abundant. Yesterday, Roger and Glenn were on my radio show. We did a pre-recording for this coming Wednesday, since we'll be at the retreat. Who else heard the radio show so far? Beautiful, beautiful. We're having a lot of fun. www.thegoodshow.net. You can go right to my website and click here on Wednesday nights and hear it going on. Thegoodshow.net. And this past week I interviewed Reverend Ed Townley, and we talked about the Bible and clearing up the misperceptions of the Bible. We're not there to find out what's wrong with the Bible. We're there to find out what's right about the Bible. Jerry Zatkoff is going to be my guest in a couple of weeks, and I said, I don't want to find out what's wrong with all the foods and everything. I want to hear what we ought to eat to be healthy, what's right for us. Because it's so easy for any of us to get up on a stage and talk about what's wrong with the world and what's wrong with each other and how we're screwing it up. And praise God. Good night. You know, that's not what our function is. Our function is here how to think, not how not to think. What was that? I think it was Linda who called me after the first week of the radio show. She said, Shawn, the news was on before you. And then I heard your voice. And the news, I'm on a news talk radio station, and a lot of those stations are talking about what's wrong with the world and how the stock market and so much politics. And that is fine. That is just fine that they do that, because then I can come on and be a nice breath of fresh air. That's what I see it as. And even our producer yesterday talked about, the producers that really like this show because it's different. I play music that's uplifting, and they don't have hardly any music on the station. And we played Roger's song, We're All Angels, yesterday. By the way, Roger's doing a concert here on Sunday, September 25th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He and his friend Shawn Thomas. Roger will be doing it, and he's going to sing in the service that morning. And it's going to be a talk called All Are Welcomed. And I'll explain more about that at that September 24th. But please be here. It's a love offering in the afternoon. But Roger was there. And so Roger and I talked about that in his shows. And then we talked about Glenn and his interfaith trading. And Glenn, as we've said, has read the manual. Glenn is well studied in interfaith studies. And we talked about how it's all the same. What's the same about everything? Because that's where our understanding is going to come from. How is it all love? That's where our divine understanding, our divine spiritual understanding. So I never again have to be a recovering anything. You know, that's a tired old thing. Oh, I'm recovering this religion or that religion, and it grinds me a little bit. I have judgments about it, and they're not necessarily righteous, because it's like, you're not recovering. Our seminary always said, always in addition to, never instead of. Whatever your past religion is, it got you here. Use that for your understanding. Whatever your past, your history is, if it's 10 minutes ago, it got you here to the present. And the present is good. Let that be your understanding. The present is always good. The past can be as heinous as can be, but the present is always good. There's never an absence of love in the present. There's never an absence of peace in the present. There's never an absence of joy in the present. There's never an absence of wealth in the present. There's only the abundance of peace in the present, the abundance of joy in the present, the abundance of peace in the present, the abundance of health in the present, the abundance of wealth in the present. That's all there is in the present. So it seems to me I would do well to enter the present. To be present in the presence of God. Let that be your willingness. Let that be your understanding. I will to be in the present now. You could be making plans for a vacation, but you're doing it now. You can make plans for a job in the future, but you're doing it now. You're thinking about it now. Everything is now. Do not attempt to bring a lie of the past into the present. It won't work. Do not attempt to be living a great life in the future now. It won't work. Live a great present, and then nobody hurts. There are no wars. There is no hunger. There is no famine. There is no lack. Right now, there is nothing to need right now, because right now, my needs are met. And now I have what I need. And now I have it. And now it's here, and now it's here, and now it's here, and now it's here, and now it's here. I understand that I don't understand the spiritual world. I understand that I can understand the physical world, that it's possible. I understand that the spiritual world is too big to grasp in my egoic mind. But I understand that it is big, that it is infinite. If you want to substitute the word God for infinite, you go for it. Because it's everything that you cannot fathom. And then there's that. And then there's more than that. And then there's more than that. And God is what you don't understand. God is everything you think you understand, but you don't actually understand it. No, it's deeper and brighter and wiser. Understand that you are infinite, but you haven't yet accepted that infinity. And go on about your business. You and I possess divine understanding because we possess all that God is. God understands love. God understands peace. God understands joy. God understands the infinite. Just relax and realize if God understands it, I no longer need to concern myself. I can just live in it. I think that's good. Thank you.